It's a chronic crisis that's plagued the United States for decades. The loss of wetlands and associated waterfowl habitats. Just since the 1950s, the United States has lost more than 26 million acres of coastal wetlands, bottomland, hardwood forests, and freshwater marshes, all of which are vital to waterfowl. In fact, our nation has lost more than half of its original wetlands, and today we are losing wetlands 140% faster than just a few years ago. A common misconception is that this persistent loss affects few Americans beyond sportsmen and other dedicated conservationists. But there is a clear, definite connection between wetlands conservation work and important societal benefits, such as clean and abundant fresh water, mitigation of flooding, and outdoor recreation.
Wetlands are important for hunting, for angling, for just waiting and watching. But when we look at the broader values of wetlands for society, we see attenuation of flood flows. If you maintain water in the uplands, as opposed to having it all run into the bottomlands at one time, it's going to reduce the severity of floods. If you live on the Gulf Coast and consider the role that coastal wetlands play with regard to storm surges, they're incredibly important there. If we consider wetlands and the role they play with regard to recharging groundwater, they act as a reservoir of abundant water. So they act as a sponge and a buffer and a key part of recreation, whether you're a hunter, an angler, or just enjoy watching and seeing birds. Let's also understand that wetlands, with regard to the role they play for a range of forest, fish, and wildlife species, can't be overstated. We often view wetlands as being important to ducks and geese, but over 900 species of vertebrates require wetlands at some period of their life cycle throughout the year.
Started by a small group of sportsmen in 1937, Ducks Unlimited has evolved into the world's leading private organization dedicated to waterfowl and wetlands conservation. With its thousands of partners, Ducks Unlimited has conserved more than 12 million acres of wildlife habitat across North America. A grassroots volunteer-based organization with more than 1 million supporters in the United States, DU works to conserve, restore, and manage wetlands and associated habitats for North America's waterfowl. This work plays a critical role in safeguarding wetlands and other habitats that are vital to wildlife and our quality of life.
Ducks Unlimited was founded by volunteers in a time of crisis in this country, much the way that people would say we're facing now. It was the Depression, it was the Dust Bowl, it was everything that could be going wrong for natural resources and for the economy were happening. But these people volunteered to step up, raise money, and put it into habitat so that North American waterfowl could have what they needed, not just today, but for future generations in Canada, the U.S., and in Mexico. Every acre that we conserve out there today is a testament to that dedication of the volunteers and our staff to work together, not for today, but for generations yet to be born so that they can enjoy what we've enjoyed.
Guided by science and dedicated to program efficiency, Ducks Unlimited is working to ensure healthy and abundant wetlands and associated habitats for both waterfowl and people. The task is daunting, and to be successful, DU will need the support of all Americans who care about waterfowl, wetlands, clean water, and safeguarding our outdoor heritage for future generations.
We know from the science that already exists that areas on the breeding grounds are really important, that birds in migration need to refuel that migration both on their southward journey as well as when they return north to the breeding grounds. So DU focuses our efforts on those areas most important to breeding birds and most important to those birds in migration. We fight for waterfowl and wetlands conservation acre by acre, and a signature of Ducks Unlimited is that we actually do, with our partners, put habitat on the ground for waterfowl and for the other species that require those wetlands.
In 2012, Ducks Unlimited celebrates 75 years of conservation success due to the tireless support and efforts of generations of volunteers, partners, and champions of its conservation mission.
The volunteers of Ducks Unlimited receive no financial reimbursement of any kind from the very first chapter to the president and the chairman of the board of this organization. So everyone here that volunteers know of the urgency that we have and the time that's ticking against us on these wetlands. Anyone that cares about wildlife, waterfowl, wetlands, the great outdoors in general, Yeah, Ducks Unlimited gives you an opportunity to really share that and to share it with generations to come. And I think that's an incredible gift that we have.
Ducks Unlimited works toward the vision of wetlands sufficient to fill the skies with waterfowl today, tomorrow, and forever.
We consider that over a 3,000-mile area, the birds breed in areas as far north as the Arctic, migrate through the Midwest, and ultimately to the Gulf and to Mexico. When we consider that our work goes from the Atlantic coast to the Pacific coast, we get a real idea of the continental scale at which we work. That scale is also important in the number of species. We're dealing here with more than 40 species of ducks and geese alone, and more than 900 species of vertebrates that require wetlands sometime throughout the year. So the scale at which we work is particularly impressive and really is gratifying to me as a scientist.
I'd love to be able to tell you that after 75 years, we've solved all the problems with wetlands and waterfowl and habitat, but we simply haven't. We still have lots of stresses upon those natural resources. Across the northern tier of the United States, where their nesting grounds are, we have tremendous pressure to grow more crops, to feed 7 billion people today, and by 2050, 9 billion people in the world. So a lot of stress on those kinds of habitats. On the Gulf Coast, Louisiana alone has lost over 1 million acres of wetlands through subsidence and saltwater intrusion, 25 to 35 square miles a year. And then throughout the rest of the country, the issue over water. Water will be the issue of the 21st century. Wetlands and waterfowl habitat are important to every American. It's part of our quality of life, but more importantly, it is the basis of life for waterfowl, for wildlife, and for people. At Ducks Unlimited, we want to work hard to be stewards of the land resources and the water resources that we were given to make sure they're passed on to future generations. And we encourage every American to get involved because these are your resources.
Wetlands and other habitat important to waterfowl continue to face serious and growing threats. Find out how you can help. Learn more about Ducks Unlimited, conservation for generations. For more information or to donate, visit Ducks Unlimited online at ducks.org.